Hello there and welcome to Japan, and of course welcome to another walk and talk style video as well. If you are new here, my name is Dylan and I'm basically going to be taking you on an adventure whilst hitting you with some real, natural, everyday British English conversation. So as you can probably tell, I'm not actually on the screen right now. That woman isn't me, I'm afraid to say. So that means that you won't actually be able to see me talking, you can only hear me. And that is why this is such a good test of your listening abilities. Right then, so we are currently in Osaka, and just as a brief overview of what you can expect today, I'm going to be taking you around some of the streets of this wonderful city, and then I'm going to be taking you to a castle. Yeah, we're actually going to a real life castle, so very, very exciting. Right then. So Osaka is, I thought it was the second most popular in terms of how many people live there. I thought it was the second most populated city in Japan. Of course, Tokyo is number one. And it turns out Osaka is the third most popular. The second most populated, not popular. The second most populated is Yokohama. But in general popularity, or how famous it is, or how many tourists it attracts, I would personally argue that Osaka is the second most popular. Okay, so of course Tokyo is number one. It's the capital city. Everyone knows Tokyo. When you think about Japan, you probably think of Tokyo, right? And I'd say number two is either Osaka or Kyoto. And Kyoto is right next door to Osaka anyway. It's only an hour away, so this is definitely a good place to visit. Right then, so I've been here for nearly 2 weeks now. I arrived on a Saturday at about 5 o'clock. Now you might be thinking, wow, what an amazing time to arrive in a new city. 5 o'clock, a Saturday evening, that's brilliant. What did you go out and do? I bet you had the best night of your life. Well, no, because when I arrived, I hadn't slept for 30 hours. Literally 30 hours. And what's crazy is I wasn't even tired though. It's so crazy, right? If you had just stayed awake for 30 hours on a normal day, you'd be absolutely knackered. You would not be able to function. You wouldn't be able to stop yourself from falling asleep. Yet I was up for 30 hours, but because I had been on a plane and stopping off in China, for some reason, that means that I wasn't tired. So I was really tempted to go out on Saturday. I was walking around, I was toying with the idea of having some beers, and I had some food, and I was like, you know what, I don't actually feel too bad right now. Then all of a sudden, boom, it hit me. The 30 hours of no sleep hit me. So I made the very sensible decision to sleep, and I'm so glad I did. I slept like an absolute baby, and I woke up fresh as a daisy on Sunday. Yeah, so that's how I started off. Right then, so for my first week, I was basically just... Well, very quickly, actually, let me just tell you where we are. So this is an area called Namba, and Namba it's a popular part of Osaka and probably the most popular tourist area as well. So if you were on Google, for example, and you search best places for tourists to stay or best places for foreigners to live in Osaka, Namba would probably be the first result. So there are so many different districts in Osaka, and each one has its own unique flavor and style and stuff like that. So we will explore those in the coming weeks. Don't worry, this won't be the final walk and talk here. But this is kind of like the, dare I say, the generic side of Osaka, I think. But at the same time, it is still very authentic. So for my first week, I was basically just settling in. Yeah, working, finding some sort of rhythm, routine, going out, finding a gym. Right, that was a vending machine. I don't know if you have those in your own. I'm joking, of course. We all know what a vending machine is. But I'm slightly disappointed that that wasn't the type of vending machine that I thought it was. Because here, and this is something I noticed a couple of years ago when I first came here, they have vending machines on the side of the streets that sell beer and cigarettes. Okay, so that's crazy. And of course, you don't need to present ID. Anyone can buy them. So that just shows the level of honor and honesty they have here. That you need to be 20, I think. I think 20 is the getting drunk age here. I think you need to be 20 in order to actually legally buy those things. But they just have enough faith in these Japanese citizens that they don't have to worry about people buying beer and smoking whilst underage. That's crazy. That would not work in the UK whatsoever. And they're actually very strict on IDing people in the UK. So the legal age to drink and to smoke is 18 here, well, in the UK. And they're really strict with that. So if you want to go out to a bar or get served in a pub or buy alcohol or anything like that in a shop, they will always ID you. The rule in the UK is something, I think it's called Challenge 25. And that means if you don't physically look older than 25 years old, they will ask for ID. Okay, so that doesn't really happen to me that much anymore. Although it did happen the other day with a Red Bull. Yeah, I was in Sainsbury's trying to buy a sugar-free Red Bull and they wouldn't serve me. They wouldn't sell it to me because I didn't have ID. Yeah, very different here. And in a 7-Eleven here, for example, when you do buy alcohol, they don't actually ask for your ID either. There's just a button that appears on the screen, on the self-checkout screen that says, are you over 20? Yes or no. So it's very much an honor-based system here. It's nice. As mentioned, would not work in the UK because people used to buy fake IDs and stuff like that. Or I remember when I was allegedly, when I was, I think, 16, there was this thing going around that some more nefarious characters used to do. Not myself, of course, but our provisional driving licenses, which is basically your ID card before you learn to drive. And it's what most people will have when they're about 16. In other words, underage, right? They were this teal color. And I was born in 1998, as was everyone, pretty much everyone else in my year. So there was this thing going around where someone worked out that if you bought some nail polish that was the same teal color as the driving license, you could paint over the 8 and turn it into a 6, which means you were born in 1996 and therefore you were 18. And apparently this worked. Obviously, you know me, I'm a very honest, upholding citizen, so of course I would never do anything like this, but apparently this did used to work. And then they cracked down and you couldn't do that anymore. But well, that was a tangent. And also, don't take that advice. Okay, don't do that. If you're underage, I highly doubt there are any underage British people watching my videos. But if there are, don't do that because it doesn't work anymore. And it's morally bad and ethically bad. Anyway, this is one of the famous landmarks in Osaka. It's called the Glyco Man, and the area itself is called Dontonbori. Okay. So that statue guy that looks like he's running in the Olympics, basically, it's just an advert for something. So Glyco or Glico, I'm just going to call it Glyco, is a company that sells food products in Japan. Okay, as far as I'm aware, it has nothing to do with running or fitness. This is just their logo, right? And the reason why it's so famous and the reason why it's a landmark firstly, it's very old. So it was built in 1935, which is crazy. And that means that it is 65 plus 26 is 81? No, 91. Okay, yeah, God, that's embarrassing. Anyway, it's 91 years old, right? So that's one of the reasons why it's so notable. But the advert itself and the man himself, he isn't actually that significant. No offense, but realistically, not many tourists are going to take a photo with a large billboard or an advert. But the reason why we do that, and the reason why it is a landmark, is because the area itself is so popular, and that is just a very notable part of it. When you go to that place, right, Dontonbori, that's kind of the first thing you notice, this big blue vibrant sign. Yeah, so he's very famous, and foreigners like me like to go there and pose next to it. And I think it was actually my Instagram profile picture for about a year. Yeah, good times. Anyway, I'm going to show you a bit more street footage, then we are going to get to the castle after this. And yes, you are seeing go-karts going by. That's just Japanese stuff, bro. Although I 100% guarantee you the people driving those are not Japanese, just more touristy stuff. Anyway, I love Japan. Yeah, not in a weeb way. And a weeb is, well, I'm unsure on the exact definition of a weeb or a weeaboo. I think that's the full name. But this is just what I've deduced from social media. It's basically someone who is maybe a bit too obsessed with Japan. It's usually Westerners, dare I say, usually people from the States. Okay, not always though, not always. I'm sure that you can be a British weeb, and I'm not one of those, okay? But I was sounding a bit defensive there. But it's just someone who is obsessed with Japan to the point where it's unhealthy. Maybe they are really, really, really into anime and they sleep with one of those waifu cushion things every night. I'm not even going to put one of those on the screen, but just unhealthily obsessed with Japanese things. But I did have a weebish moment, which was very embarrassing, and it was completely accidental as well. But it made me feel a bit like, god damn it. So I was in a cafe and I was placing my order and I was speaking to the barista a bit, just normal stuff, right? And I said something like, I need to learn Japanese, but she misheard me and she thought I said something like, I love Japanese, which is a very weird weeby thing to say. It's just a very weird thing to say in general when placing an order in a coffee shop, randomly saying, oh yeah, I love Japanese. Right, it gives off weeb vibes, so yeah, that was quite embarrassing. But I seriously do need to learn Japanese. And as I'm saying this, I know that I've been saying this for 2 weeks now when I first arrived, and I still haven't made any progress towards that. I tried to go to a language exchange, to be fair, and it didn't end very well. So this was last weekend, I think, and I found it online. And on the advert, it said, oh, English and Japanese language exchange, all levels welcome. It's fine if you just speak English. This is a friendly, inclusive group. Just turn up and have fun. I was like, yeah, why not? Why not? Let's do that. Maybe I can, because I do know like the bare minimum. Maybe I can practice a bit and meet some people. Maybe I can meet a teacher there. That type of thing. Someone who can actually give me lessons, right? If anyone knows any good Japanese teachers, please hit me up on Instagram. British Education _ Anyway. I turned up no, it wasn't even that easy. I traveled for 30 minutes, right? And then I spent another 1 or 2 minutes outside just hyping myself up to walk into this random cafe place and join the language exchange. And after a while, I finally plucked up enough courage to enter. I walked in there and there was a guy there. I said, hi, I'm here for the language exchange. He said, name? I said, oh, it's name? It's Dylan. He looks down for about half a second and says, you speak Japanese? Pardon? You speak Japanese, Dylan? No, go away then. Pardon? Go away. Go away. This isn't for you. You need to be able to speak Japanese, okay? This is a language exchange. And I was just like, oh man, whatever. It did literally say on the page, it doesn't matter if you speak Japanese, but okay, whatever. But the point I'm trying to make is it's all fine and well me saying, oh, I need to learn Japanese. But bro, if you want to learn Japanese, then learn Japanese. You're going to need to book some lessons. What we need a Japanese education, just the Japanese version of myself. Then I can watch all of their incredible videos and learn Japanese from them. So yeah, why do I like Japan then? Well, firstly, the food is just amazing. And I know that's quite a generic thing to say, but it's true. And I do also say this about every country that I visit, which I think is actually a British thing. Everything else is just delicious in comparison. And yeah, I mean, Japanese cuisine is amazing. Sushi is my favorite food and udon noodles are perfect as well. But it's not just the sushi here. Everything just feels extremely high quality and clean. Even the Western food, like the sandwiches in 7-Eleven are delicious. And it's the same with the drinks, really. So, for example, the coffee in 7-Eleven for me is so good. I actually wrote about this in my last newsletter. Oh, yeah, every single Tuesday I send a newsletter. It's completely free. And I tell funny stories like the ones I'm telling in this video. And I include loads of photos. And there's also a British meme. And I tell you about the videos that we have coming up. It's completely free. I think I mentioned that. And you get a bonus video as soon as you sign up. The link to that is in the top comment. Sorry. But I wrote about this in my last newsletter. One of the best things about being British is having this innate low threshold for acceptable or even nice food or drink. So for me and for, I'd say, most British people, a simple cup of tea or a sausage roll or a pint or beans on toast, all of these things are simply perfect as they are. And of course, they say that the key to a man's heart is through his stomach. So, well, with the food standards we have in the UK, if you're looking for an easy husband, then that's probably the place to start. Anyway, that means that when I go to a country that does actually have an objectively high standard of food, it blows my mind. I really, really appreciate it. And it means that I can go to 7-Eleven and buy a coffee there. And when I drink it, I think, wow, this is good. This is the best coffee in the world. This is what Caldi died for. And Oh, what's that? You don't know Kaldi? You don't you don't know Kaldi? You mean the goat herder from Ethiopia, aka the founder of coffee? You don't know Kaldi, you uncultured. Anyway, that was a moat. Yeah, so we're at the castle now. We're making our way. We're progressing through the gates. And I do have some castle facts for you, don't worry. I have done a bit of research, but I'll hit you with these when we get a bit closer to the actual castle itself. So yeah, the food and drink here, perfecto, very nice. Mecha oishi, yeah, don't worry, I have learned a bit. What else? There are lots of cute things everywhere. Not everyone is a fan of this, but personally, I'm a huge fan of this. Everything is cute. The branding, the logos, the adverts. They have loads of these animations and cartoons and stuff like that. And in general, I just think that Japanese people are cool. I love their style. I think it's all very unique. I feel like there isn't a set uniform here or a set hairstyle or outfit that people think they need to abide by. I love the time difference. So, right, I'm just going to interrupt this quickly because I think this is a good time to talk about the castle, hit you with my castle facts. So firstly, didn't realize you had to pay for this thing. Okay, not a big deal, but there was a 15-minute wait time, which, okay, it's fine, it is what it is, I'll do it for the content, do it for the filming. So I had to wait in this queue for about 15 minutes, funnily that. Who'd have thought it would be 15 minutes? And I'm just trying to find my castle facts because, funnily enough, I haven't actually memorized them. That's a good transition, by the way, just hitting myself in the forehead, then boom, skip the queue. So this castle was built in 1583, making it 440 years old. It was taken, I don't know who, someone took it, someone invaded the castle and stole it in the 1600s. And then I'm not really too sure if someone took it back after that. Listen, I've done a bit of research, not loads of research. Anyway, it was then renovated in the 1990s. Okay. Sorry, I need to interrupt here once again. Yeah, so I waited in this queue and I paid the money and I turned up and it says no photographs and no video. So I couldn't even... I came here for the sole purpose of filming. So thankfully it was only the 3rd and the 4th floor you're not allowed to film on. So we're going to go straight up to the top floor and I'm going to show you what's up there and then we'll take a bit more of a walk around the castle. Anyway, it's a very well-built castle because, as mentioned, it was renovated in the 1990s, which is why it looks so impressive. It probably didn't look like this back in the day. I doubt they had the elevator in there 400 years ago. I might be wrong though. Japan always have been pretty ahead of the curve when it comes to technology. But in terms of how pragmatic this is, I would not like to invade this castle. And that's coming from a British person. Yeah, so shout out to Toyotomi Hideyoshi for cooking this. He was the original creator of this back in 1583. Because it's amazing. There are 2 moats, and a moat is the pool of water that surrounds this thing. So you have to get past those. The walls are incredibly high. Of course, they're going to have people like firing at you from the top of the walls. So yeah, it's very well built. I would not like to invade that thing. That's all I can say. I mean, I did invade it and it cost me £6 and 15 minutes of my life, but I wasn't even allowed to film it, so yeah. Now, this is a plum garden. I'm not sure if these are actual plums. Plums are fruit. I know that plums are quite popular here because I know that there is an alcohol. I think it's a sake or sake, which is the Japanese alcohol, right? The flagship alcohol of Japan. And I had one once that had a plum floating in it. And also on The Simpsons, when Barney gets a Japanese girlfriend, she goes to Moe's bar and orders a drink served in a top hat with a plum floating inside of it. So yeah, I do get quite a lot of my cultural information from The Simpsons, actually. Anyway, the time difference. Japan is 9 hours ahead of the UK most of the time, sometimes 8 hours, but at the moment it's 9 hours. And I absolutely love this because I have certain deadlines that I need to meet. So for example, with my Tuesday newsletter, link in the bio, completely free, I send that at about 11 a.m. UK time. So normally that means that it has to be prepared the night before because it takes me about an hour, sometimes about an hour and a half to make these things every single week. I don't use AI, by the way. It's all me. Like, it really is authentic. And that takes a long time. So normally I would have to prepare it the night before or do it in a bit of a rush in the morning. But here, because of the time difference, it means that I can send that newsletter. I don't need to send it at 11 a.m. I need to send it at 8 p.m. It can be my last task of the day. And it's the same with the YouTube videos. I post a video every Friday and it needs to be at about 1 to 2 p.m. But in Japan, that means it's 10 p.m. every Friday. So I just love this time difference. Okay, so how should we... Okay, I'm not going to end this on the negatives of Japan, the cons of Japan, but I will quickly speak about those. There aren't many of them, to be honest. So after all of those things I love about Japan, I've only found one thing that I dislike. Obviously, I haven't been there for that long, and if I actually moved here, I'm sure I'd be able to add some things to this list, but for now, I've found just one thing that I dislike. And that is that sometimes the rules feel a tad rigid. For example, in the 2 gyms that I've visited here, you can't wear the same shoes you walked in with to actually work out in the gym. Okay, so you need to bring a spare pair of shoes, which just feels a bit ridiculous. I guess the theory is that they don't want people bringing in the dirt from the street into the actual gym. Maybe it's, it might well be a traditional thing actually, because I know you're not really supposed to wear shoes inside, certainly not in people's houses, even if they are immaculately clean. But it's just a bit impractical having to bring 2 pairs of shoes to the gym, right? So that's just one example. Another example, when you're crossing the road, you have to wait for the green man before crossing, even if there isn't a car in sight. So let's say that you are waiting at the side of the road, and for the cars, the traffic light is green, which means they can go, and therefore for the people, the man is red, which means you can't go. Even if there is not a car in sight, everyone just stands there and waits. I mean, obviously you can go, but 90% of the time I'd say that people wait there, and I also end up waiting there as well, because you don't want to be the rule-breaking foreigner. Like, you're in another country, and it's only fair that you respect the rules. And that's not even being performative, that's just having common courtesy and good manners and stuff like that. So I will wait, but for the record, in the UK, I am breaking that law all day long. I think that there is above a 50% chance that I'm not going to get squished by a car. I will cross the road. Okay, and that's just how it is in the UK and probably other parts of the world as well. Let me know what your policy is with crossing roads. I think in Korea it's also quite strict as well, so maybe it's just this part of the world. Yeah, but that's it. I mean, those cons are so trivial, they don't really matter. If there are other cons, please put them in the comments down below, because I'm genuinely curious. Nowhere is perfect, right? Of course, I'm sure that there are other things wrong with Japan that I haven't noticed. If you've lived here, please let me know, okay? Because I'm genuinely curious. But for now, those are the only bad things that I can find. Okay, I do have a few other points that we can talk about, but we'll save those for another video, because as mentioned, this won't be the final one that I make here. So thank you so much for watching. I hope that you have enjoyed this video. As mentioned, I send a newsletter every single Tuesday. It's completely free and it's very fun as well. I'll tell you some stories, include some photos, and include a British meme. And the link to that is in the top comment. And every single Friday, I post new YouTube videos. So make sure to please subscribe to the channel so that you don't miss those, and turn on the little bell notification thing. And also please like this video and comment down below, because that tells YouTube that you enjoyed this one, and it means that it pushes it out to more people, and the video does better, and I'm happier, and yeah, everyone is content. Okay, if you would like more from me, I do have an incredible online course where I will teach you everything you need to know about coming to the UK. So it's called the Real British English course. There are 5 modules. We have the vocabulary and expressions module. I'll teach you all of the words you need to know. We have the accent module. I'll help you to master your British accent. We have the speaking module, making you more confident in day-to-day conversations. The listening module, same thing. And last but definitely not least, we have a whole module about the UK culture. So that's really important if you are planning on moving here, or maybe if you're already living here but you feel slightly uncomfortable, you'd like to fit in a bit more. So the link to that is also in the top comment. There's a 30-day money-back guarantee, so you can try it completely risk-free. Okay then, thank you once again for watching. I hope you have a lovely weekend or weekday, depending on what day you are watching this on. And I will see you again very soon for another episode. Cheers. Bye. Mwah.